Hey guys, Geoffrey here. In this video, I want to show you why, if you're in a process right now of trying to save your marriage, there's no doubt that you're doing a lot of things to try to save it. But here, I want to show you why a lot of the things you're doing may not be working and why your partner is pulling away from you despite the fact that you're trying your very best here. And I want you to stay to the very end of this video because this is something that is not talked about very often. And you must understand this if you want to understand how to make your actions actually count, how to make it more meaningful, and how to make it more effective as well. And in case you're new to this channel, my name is Geoffrey and I help men in long-term relationships or in marriages with the right skills, with the right knowledge to be able to design a thriving relationship by yourself. So if you want more content on this topic, be sure to subscribe to this channel and also click that bell button as well to be notified when I post new videos every single week. And before I begin this video, I also want to let you know that the masterclass, the free masterclass on the 5 proven steps to rebuilding your relationship from the ground up is still open. So if you want to join the masterclass or if you want to submit your application for my relationship revival program, then be sure to stick around to the very end of this video for the announcement on how you can join that as well. So before I get to the real meat of this video and show you the 4 reasons, I want to get you back to the basics first. And the first basic I want you to understand is that it's not about what you do when things are easy, when things are hopeful, but it's really about what you do when things are hard, when things are unplanned, when things are hopeless. The truth behind this is that it's really easy to fake, for example, saying the right things, doing the right things when there's a lot of hope, when there's every reason for you to say and do the right things, when you can plan your conversation. But when it gets really hard to fake is when things are really hopeless, when things are really difficult, when things are really dire. Your partner really wants to see whether your changes are real or not. And she also subconsciously understands here that it's easy to fake things when things are easy. But when it's hard, that's when it really counts. So for example, when things are really hard and you start to go back to your old ways and you maybe give up, you back down, that will really show your partner here that all the promises you've been making when things were easy, when things were planned, etc., were just tactics, were just ploys to get her back. That this is not really a lifestyle for you, that you don't really have good reasons behind your changes. You're doing it just so that you can get an outcome. But if you can stay steadfast, if you can stay strong and your new self, if you can maintain your changes, the correct changes, during the very difficult moments when things are utterly hopeless, then that will actually often change your partner's mind in that she'll now think, I've taken away all hope from this guy. There's really no reason for him to keep being his new self, to keep his changes, to keep being nice, to keep being positive, but he still is. Maybe there's something real here. So again, it's not about what you do when things are easy, but what you do when things are hard. And the second thing is it's not about doing the right things sometimes, but it's about doing the right things consistently. Because again, doing the right things sometimes is easy to fake, but doing the right things all the time, that's really hard to fake. And again, she wants to see the behaviors that are hard to fake. That's what really, really counts, the changes that are hard to fake. And lastly, understand here that it's really impossible to fake your changes. Whether you have changed or not will really show through the micro expressions, the microtones you have. It will show up in the tough moments, the hard moments, the hopeless moments when it's really difficult for you to put on your mask and fake your changes. And no matter how much you try to hide it, it will show. So now that we understand those basics, I want to go deeper here into showing you the 4 reasons why your partner is really finding it hard to trust you despite all your efforts and why nothing you're doing is really working. So reason number 1 here is that your changes are perhaps too superficial and too surface level. So if I talk to a lot of people who are in the relationship space and trying to save their marriage, even when I look at a lot of coaches and how they talk about their philosophies, etc., they're very surface level. They only care about what to do, what to say. Here's a text you can send. Here's the things you should be saying. You should do smart contact, all these things, the very surface level things. But very few people actually want to take the time and the energy and the effort to not only learn it, but also practice it on the internal shifts, the deep internal shifts. So if you've joined my masterclass before, you will know that there's really 4 different layers of your changes that really, really matter. So of course, in order for you to create safety and create a good relationship, you need to understand the frameworks, which is what you need to do and say and how you should dance around the different interactions you have in your relationship. But the frameworks are not the only layer. Below that is what we call the mindsets, and we often refer to this as the bulletproof mindset, which is the way you interpret your world so that you can play out the right frameworks. So for example, in our frameworks, we tell you to be very highly compassionate, but It's impossible, for example, to be compassionate if your mindset forces you and reflexively gets you to think about blaming your partner's character problem, making you feel hopeless, making you feel negative, making you feel angry. It's impossible to be compassionate if you have the wrong mindset here. But the frameworks and mindsets are not even the only two layers. We have below that what we call self-esteem, which is comprised of self-efficacy and self-worth. And self-efficacy, again, is your mind's ability or your confidence in your own ability to get something done, to accomplish something. And your self-worth is really about your mental ability to be able to see the positive and see your own worth despite bad things happening. So really, if you think about it here, if you master the right frameworks, you will naturally gain self-efficacy. And if you master the right mindset, you will naturally gain self-worth. So as you master the frameworks and mindsets here, you will start to gain self-esteem. But if you notice here, as you grow your self-esteem as well, you'll also find it easier to play the frameworks and the mindsets as well. So it's a very virtuous cycle that we have between self-esteem and also frameworks and mindsets. Now, the last layer here is what we call the identity shifting. That's the layer where we talk about having the frameworks and mindsets and self-esteem be not only just something you logically understand, but it becomes a deep part of your subconscious identity. And if you look at this flow, this layers here, the top parts are really the actionable parts, the really obvious parts, the surface level parts that a lot of people care about. But this is the easiest one to get and easiest one to fake as well. And your partner knows this. This is the easiest one to fake. But as you go down deeper to the identity level, that's where it becomes really hard to fake. That's the part that really counts. And that's the part where you can really play out the frameworks and mindsets to the point where it really influences your micro expressions, your microtones, that it's impossible to fake now. If your changes have become part of your identity, that becomes your natural default. That even when things are tough, when things are difficult, you will go to that natural default, which is your new self. So again, going back to this point is that it's impossible to have the right changes, to be consistent, and to do the right things when things are difficult, when things are unplanned, when things are hopeless, when you haven't gone to these deeper core layers yet, to the identity level, the self-esteem level, etc. So I'm sure a lot of you have faced these moments where you know what to do. You know you should stay calm. You know you should communicate with your partner in a very open way, ask questions, be compassionate with it, whatever it is. And you promise yourself every single day that you're going to be more compassionate. But then she says something to trigger you, and when you get triggered, you just can't help but lose it. You forget everything you knew, you forget all the frameworks you knew, and you end up saying a lot of things that you regret. Now, when you later regret this, you look back and you say, okay, next time I'm going to do better. But the next time the same thing happens and you end up getting in this cycle of regrets. And if you're facing this problem, that's usually because you haven't really deeply internalized your changes yet. You're just focusing on the surface level here, but you're not really going deep into it. And so if you're not going deep into it, nothing you do will ever really work. Now, the second reason is that even if you try to go deep here, you're not trying to find the right principles. You're not trying to find the right learnings here. So a lot of people, they focus mostly on just asking for tactics. So if your questions look like this, for example, your questions are, hey, my partner did XYZ. How do I respond to that? What do I do? If you ask these kinds of questions where you're only trying to have someone tell you what to do, what you should do, then you're in big trouble. Because whatever answers you get to that question can really only help you solve that one little problem. But if you're in your relationship, you are going to face potentially tens of millions of different iterations of what could possibly happen in your relationship. And if you're only trying to solve one thing at a time, one response at a time, then you're going to be in very, very big trouble. And a lot of people do this. They ask these questions because it's really easy to ask these questions. It doesn't require much thinking because you're basically asking for someone to solve your problems for you. What you want are what we call the Swiss Army knowledge. That's where you are not learning tactics, but you're learning principles. For example, we have our frameworks and we have 6 different frameworks in our program. With the 6 different frameworks, you are able to dance around and deal with every single conversation you can possibly imagine. And I mean every single iteration. So the 6 frameworks are almost like a Swiss Army to where one framework can function in so many different ways. And if you want an example of one of these frameworks, I'm going to put a video here above my head, two videos talking about some of the frameworks that we have and how really you can use it for all different types of conversations. Same thing for mindset. If you understand the principles behind how to grow your mindset, then it doesn't matter if you're having PTSD, depression, anxiety issues, neediness issues, whatever it is. If you understand the principles behind how to fix your emotions, you also understand that it doesn't matter what emotional issues you have, you can fix it. And this is how a lot of our clients, for example, like Kelly here, he has spent 9 years of his life being on heavy medication from combat PTSD. But once he joined the program, in a couple of months, his emotions really fixed itself and corrected itself. And so if you want to have more understanding on what these principles are on emotions, I'm going to include another video here above my head for you as well. So again, if you're not getting the right principles, if you're getting the principles that are not the Swiss Army one that only allows you to fix one problem, you're always going to be very blindsided. You're always going to be very confused. And so it's really difficult to be consistent, to do the right things when you get curveballs thrown at you, when things are hard. It's really difficult to do the right things because you don't even know what you're doing. So I want you to start changing the nature of your questions. Ask yourself, does this question allow me to just solve this one problem, or does it allow me to actually solve many problems? Is it a Swiss Army information or just a simple blade? And doing this might take a lot of work in the short term as you try to understand what better questions look like, but also as you try to understand the implications behind these principles, the Swiss Army stuff that you're going to find. May be difficult in the short term, but the long term is going to yield you a lot better results. And this brings me to reason number three, which is that a lot of people see this journey of saving the relationship as trying to get a painkiller rather than making it a lifestyle. And if you look at why do people only focus on the surface level or focus on the wrong principles, this is really the reason why. So when you see this process as a painkiller process, you usually see it as more of a temporary change than it is a permanent change. So a lot of people, for example, when they're trying to change themselves, they see this phase as a dreadful phase. And they dread the learning and the rebuilding process of the relationship, of themselves, of learning, etc. They dread it. They get exhausted by it. They don't look forward to it every day. And they can't wait every single day till the day that things are normal. They can't wait till they have the relationship back. And if you're like this, then the motivation really fluctuates heavily with the outcome, right? Because you hate the process. You hate the process, the journey. And so you're always looking at the outcome. And so if the outcome suddenly one day seems hopeless and it seems like you're not going to get to the outcome, then suddenly you realize, I have no point being in this journey. I'm done. But then the next day, if let's say the hope gets reinstilled, you suddenly say, okay, now the journey is worth it. But very few people see this as a lifestyle, as something you can do and you should do and you want to do forever. And so with these people, what really happens is that through thick or thin, whether the outcome is coming or not, they don't really care. They're going to play out the process anyway. Now, if let's say you see this as a painkiller and you see it as a temporary phase and your motivation fluctuates heavily, then your changes will always seem very fake to your partner because you're going to be crumbling every single time things get tough. Because again, your partner wants to see whether your changes are real or not. And for her to see that, she needs to see, do your changes stand during very difficult moments? And if your motivation is very tied to your outcome like this, then you're going to crumble during those very difficult moments. And it's going to show to your partner that, aha, I knew it. This guy really didn't have any reasons behind his changes. All these promises he was making about how awesome his changes are or will be, etc., they're not really real. He doesn't have really good reasons behind that. And this was never a lifestyle for him. He was never going to do this forever because he hates the process. But again, if you see it as a lifestyle, you learn to enjoy the process, then that's a very different story entirely because now you actually want to do the process despite whatever the outcome is. And so for you to see this in action, I want you to see all the different client stories that we have of people who achieve massive success from my program. And in all these stories, you will realize that it started with them being untethered, with them being able to untether their motivation to the outcome. They're able to see this process and enjoy this process as a lifestyle. And they're going to promise to do this every single day, regardless of whether they get the outcome or not. In fact, when they get the outcome, when you hear a lot of these people talking, when they get the outcome, they always tell themselves, okay, now that I got the outcome, I'm going to double down even more. Now, the last reason here is that you may be using your willpower incorrectly. And here's what I mean by this. So you have, again, your process and your outcome. Most people use their willpower directly on the outcome. So for example, if let's say the outcome that they want is to have a good conversation, the outcome that they want is to be calm, they will try to use their willpower to keep themselves calm, to have a better conversation. But this is absurd. This is like as if you're trying to sit on the couch and you're trying to use your willpower to grow your immune system. It doesn't work that way. So your desire to do something, to accomplish something, to keep calm, to have better conversations has nothing to do with you actually being able to keep calm and have better conversations. So you can't just willpower your way to getting an outcome, the same way you can't willpower your way to having a better immune system. If you want to have a better immune system, what you need to do is you need to use your willpower and focus it on the inputs, on the processes. So for example, if you want to have a better immune system, you have to develop a process of having a healthier habit, of, let's say, sleeping better, a better bedtime routine, drinking more water, whatever it is. You have to develop these inputs, these processes. Now, if you want to grow your immune system, don't channel your willpower to trying to grow your immune system. Channel your willpower to exercising, to sleeping better, to eating better, to drinking more water, etc. Same thing here. If you want to have better conversations, identify the inputs, which are better visualizations, better understanding of the frameworks, better practice of the frameworks, etc. If you want to grow your mindsets, understand the different paradigms, different ways to program your new paradigms, and so on. And so you're not trying to keep calm and clench your fist to stay calm, basically. You're trying to use your willpower to slowly grow this habit that you have of your emotions and your frameworks. So a great example of this is how in the program we deal with emotions. So again, the basic principle of emotions is that you have your event, you start with your event, and the event itself does not cause your emotions. The event passes through your reflexive paradigms, or the reflexive way you have been trained to view the world, to interpret the world, to see the world, the lens. And this can be programmed from many years of childhood, programming, past experiences, whatever it is. Now, once it passes through your paradigms, you immediately make a reflexive, a subconscious interpretation of that event. And that interpretation causes the emotion. So for example, your partner shuts down and says, doesn't want to work on the relationship. You right now have a paradigm of, it takes two to tango. If my partner doesn't want to work on it, it's hopeless for me. And so the interpretation you feel is that, okay, my partner doesn't want to work on it, so why even bother to try? And if that's your interpretation, your emotion will be of hopelessness, of dejection, of giving up, of just all these negative emotions. So if you look at this sequence, we have to ask ourselves, where does the emotion really start? The emotions really start with this reflexive paradigms. Our reflexive paradigms will reflexively determine our interpretations, then will determine our emotions. So if we want to fix the ultimate emotions here, given the same event, we better learn how to see a different paradigm. So the process to being more bulletproof, to being more emotionally bulletproof, is to identify a different paradigm in which you can view the world, and a process by which you can program those new paradigms into your life. And so you're not trying to use your willpower here to change the emotion here, down here, but you're trying to use your willpower on these processes right here. And this is again the process, the system that many of my clients have used, like Kelly earlier, or if you look at any of my client stories, they will tell you that their anxiety now is 0. It's not a 1 or 2, it's 0. And this is how they do it, by channeling their willpower into the right processes. And this is really the only way to make this into a lifestyle. If you don't do this, if you don't channel your willpower the correct way, you're always going to be struggling. And when you're struggling, you can't really show your partner your changes here. So again, why is nothing working for you? Because one, you crumble when things get really hard. And number 2 is that you have on days, but you also have off days. And number 3 is that the cracks of how much you really haven't changed is showing up in your micro expressions, your microtones, in the small moments when things are hard, when things are difficult, when it's really difficult for you to fake your changes. So again, if you really want to start understanding how to change in a deeper way, in a more genuine way, in a way that pretty much guarantees your ability to save your relationship, because you're going to be growing so massively that it's impossible or really difficult for your partner to ignore here, then I want you to join me in my free masterclass on the 5 proven steps to rebuilding your relationship from the ground up. In that masterclass, I'll show you the exact steps that all my clients here that you saw today have used to achieve massive success despite being in very hopeless situations. So if you want to join the masterclass, or if you want to submit your application for the Relationships Revival program, then be sure to click the link above my head right now, or also down in the comments below or in the description box below this video as well. And if you want a free guide where you can understand some of these frameworks that we talked about in this video to allow you to have a better conversation in your relationship, then you can also download the guide I have for you above my head or also down below this video. And finally, if you want to join a community where you can post your questions or have a member of my team answer them for you, then you can click the link below this video as well. In the meantime, I know that was a very rich video, but if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. And if you like this video, find it to be valuable, then like it and subscribe to this channel for more content like this one. But for now though, I will leave you with these 2 other videos with more skills, knowledge, mindsets that allows you to design a thriving relationship for yourself. For now, I will see you in the next video.